Hello, dear ones. I am Eleonora from the Awakening Path Show. And here is a place where you come to expand your consciousness. Today with me, I have Gil. He is a law specialist and he will teach us all about sovereignty. Welcome, Gil.
Thank you, Eleanor. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here too. And before we talk about sovereignty, first I need to explain about the most important law of the universe. Is the law of free will. Yes.
Mhm.
The law of free will is an universal law and everybody follows that law. All the angels, archangels, Jesus, God, source, we're supposed to follow that law too. And all the ATs, the government, everybody's supposed to follow that law. And there is consequences when you don't follow that law. That's the consequence of that is you create karma. So what it really means to have free will? Free will means that you have total freedom to choose what you think is best for you. When you have to choose in between, let's say, 100 options, but you cannot choose anything that's outside that 100 options, then there is no, it's not free will.
Mhm.
When you have, even if you are satisfied with some of that, great for you if you are, but that's not free will. There is someone hurting your free will there. And what is happening in society later, those options that have been given to us is just getting shorter, smaller in numbers and smaller.
Mhm.
And people start to noticing that actually they don't really have free will.
Right.
When you have to choose in between, take this or lose your job, you still have two choices there, but you're not happy with any of them. And you cannot choose anything outside of that. That's not free will. And another, we have the universal rights too. The universal, everything that's universal, if you want to put in terms that people can understand better, let's say God's law, human rights given by God. We have the right of shelter, food, water, and happiness. Yes, happiness included that too. Anything that's stopping you from getting that is against the free will. Later on, we're gonna talk a little bit about, well, if everybody has the free will to do what they want, the world will be a chaos. Not necessarily.
Mhm.
And God source does things perfect because yes, he gave the free will. Everybody needs to follow. But when you choose, you are responsible for your choices.
Mhm.
And we also live in a reflective world. That's mean everything that you give returns to you. So if you choose anything that hurt yourself or hurt others, it will come back to you. So I'm not against any type of control. If there is a serial killer killing everybody, please, someone stop him or her. So, but before we go to that deep talking, I just have to ask you,
Mhm.
how you define sovereignty? Actually, I'm sorry. Let me go back a little bit. That was my view of free will. How do you define free will?
That's a good question, and many times that is expressed in law or in society as rights. And, we all have rights, but we all have free will, right? Rights begin with free will. And we can exercise those rights, but we also have to be responsible to, our fellow man on and what we do with those decisions while we exercise our rights. Um, so is I would say, for me personally, Eleonora, I don't necessarily look at the definition of words in these types of things, and at this level. I mean, of course, in case law and things like that, we have to look at definitions of words. But it's more about a being. It's how we conduct ourselves every day in our daily lives. Being sovereign is the freedom to exercise one's rights and free will for the benefit of themselves and for others, right? That's what I would say, because anything less than that can potentially become a lawful violation, right? Just because we have free will doesn't mean we can go do whatever we want, especially if it means some detriment to somebody else. Because if there's ever harm or loss created by one of our actions, then we're obligated to take care of that. Today's society has moved into, well, the insurance company will take care of that, or my company will take care of that, or if they won't do it, then there's lawsuits. So, you know, being sovereign means is more about actions and how you conduct yourself in your autonomy. And that's something that kind of goes hand in hand with sovereignty. Sovereignty it's starting to become a bigger word. It's starting to be used more and more often because this is something that we were given just by birth alone. Yeah, rights are not granted. Nothing can be granted. Your rights existed before government. Government doesn't give you sovereignty. Government doesn't give you rights. You've already had them. The question is, how do you exercise them? So it's more of for me, sovereignty is better understood, and what do you do to be sovereign and autonomous when you're around your fellow man versus how do you feel about exercising your free will anytime you want, right? So it really just becomes a conscious decision on how you're going to govern your own life. So,
Thank you. That's
yeah,
very clarifying explanation.
good.
And the title of this talk is We Are Merging Sovereignty with Spirituality.
Mhm.
Gil, how has been your spiritual evolution so far when you feel, wow, I'm awakened to the knowing that I'm not just a body and must have something beyond the third dimension?
How has that been for me? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, how it started for you.
So it's really an evolution of sorts, for me, and it's becoming aware of things that you weren't aware of, right? It all starts with a little flicker, right? Something connects. It's like a seed, somewhere along the line in my life, a seed was planted. And I may not have understood what it was at the time, but you eventually come to learn certain truths along the way, right? You submit to those truths and you learn how to operate in them, whether you like them or not, right? The world is what it is. So for me, it has been an evolution. And fortunately for me, my wife kind of woke up with me. It could have been really difficult
Oh,
for
yes,
one
talk
person to
about.
only you have that
My husband
awakening.
didn't, so I
He
know what
didn't.
you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I was very, very fortunate that Marlou came with me on that journey because as I have progressed through it, probably not unlike a lot of people, as you start to become aware of certain truths and you start understanding things that are maybe not seen as much as you come to understand what is, right? So there's all these things, and especially when you're talking about law, there's a lot behind that the average person really doesn't spend much time thinking about, right? So when you start when I started waking up, I was able to step through it. It wasn't too shocking. It wasn't too fast. It wasn't information that I didn't understand, but it has definitely been a journey. And while that journey continues to go, a very large part, a very significant part of my awakening and everybody else's awakening may very well be different. Where it took me was to law. There's more to know, there's more to explore, but the final destination, as far as what I think I contribute is, and what I can do for myself in law, that's been the most significant work that I've ever done for myself and for my family, is to understand what the law really is, how it operates, how it doesn't operate, and how to work within it, even though it doesn't always operate well. So awakening for me has just been a very long, about 6 years, I guess it is now. And then once I started putting everything together, it's really been quite extraordinary. Yeah.
And you talk more about your spirit, your awakening of what the words, the government really means. How
Mm-hmm.
about a spiritual awakening? How you merge what you
Yeah.
learn on law and the practical life
Hmm.
with your spiritual practice, right?
Right.
Meditation.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. It's really the foundation of how I approach law and the things that I've done in the law and the legal system and things like that. Um, from a spiritual standpoint, there's a lot of videos online when you start talking about law. And some of these videos will give you really great information without a lot of information on what it really means and how to use it. So you're left to figure that out, which is not a bad thing, right? That's a good thing. It's data, it's information, it's something you can move forward with if that's what you choose for yourself. So there's a lot of good information out there. And then there's some information that is not so good, right? You got people trying to follow the law and do things in law, and they're getting it wrong, and they're going to jail, and they're putting it on video camera, and they're putting it on YouTube, and there's things like that happen. So there's false information, or not false, but there's misleading information, and then there's good information, and it's really how you make heads or tails of it. But when you can accept that it's not a perfect system, it's not always going to work all the time. It functions in a system of kind of duality as well, right? The positives and the negatives. I mean, the legal system and everything and the laws that we have created an incredible world. But then there's times it doesn't work right. But my approach in the way that I see these things, and I think it's the most effective approach when you're dealing with topics of law and things of that nature, is if I look at everything that I see regarding law online, or something I see on TV, if I looked at that and said, well, I got really mad and angry about what I saw because somebody's rights had been violated, and I'm looking at it, I'm watching, I'm saying, oh my gosh, that's plain as day to me that that's a violation of somebody's rights. And then watching that person try to do something about it and then fail. Um, if I war with that system, you know, everything's a creation of God, even the things that we don't necessarily like, and the results that come our way at times, right? Not everything's always going to be fair. But if I war with that, I'm warring with the creation of it. So staying grounded when you see things in the media and you're not sure what the right answer was, or it sounded right, but they got it wrong, or that wasn't fair. If you look at that as is being the only thing that exists in law, you're kind of missing the other point of it. You're missing the side of it where there is a system that is there to protect people. You know, there's a system there to give us good roads and good bridges and airports and all the utilities and things that come along with governance. Um, the spiritual part of that, I think, is key, is not looking at it as being good or being bad, just what it is for what it is. And either it was done correctly and the law was applied, or the law wasn't applied. But when you said earlier, God's laws were all subject to those. And there's more than just they're more than just like statutes and codes and things like that. In God's law, it's the way of being. I like to say that like a law is the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Right? You can call that a law, right? Because it's repeatable. It's going to be there. Everybody understands it. The outcome. You know what to expect. And I think taking that viewpoint within the spirituality, right? The spiritual nature of who we are, and seeing that as just another creation, and then accepting it for what it is, and then working within it, not against it, and things like that. So I think that's a really key part.
Yes,
It's
I
it's
love
it,
it.
it's easy to
I
get
love that
angry.
explanation.
Yeah, it's easy to get angry when you see these things, right? It's easy to get mad because we all tend to want to. We all vote for the underdog, which is usually somebody like us, because somebody's got them getting in trouble in law somehow, the police officer or the judge or whatever it is. So it's you, you could get very angry watching these things, and that's really not the key to it. The trick the trick to operating in the system and succeeding is a lot of hard work and studying law, but it's also understanding that that system is not perfect either. So
Yes.
yeah.
So today will be more like a conversation. You're gonna get to know Gail and what is his work. And we are planning at least two more
Mhm.
talks where we can go deep, explain to you how can you really succeed in state your free will, not to just survive on the system, but to really exert your free will, keeping in mind that you have the right to do what you think is best for your family. And at the same time, you know what's the consequences of each choice and how to navigate to do what you think is best for you and your family in the world that we are right now, where the human's right is getting shrinked and shrinked and shrinked
Mhm.
more and more. So, like people like to say, it's time for us to spread our wings and say, I know what you're doing, and I have the power to say no. And I
Mhm.
know how to say no, when, and how. So that's what we're gonna try to take you on those three conversations, and maybe even more.
Okay.
So, Gail, it's when you talk about human rights, and the basic rights are, for example, what we eat, what we feed our body is very, very important.
Mhm.
And we have been misled in belief that eating chemicals are not harmful. But if you just think a little bit, stop running and think a little bit, you're gonna realize that, oh, I know somebody that drinks soft drinks like um let's say 32 ounces of a soft drink every day.
Mhm.
It's a way overweight.
Mhm.
And maybe that has something to do with the sugar and all the chemicals on those things.
Yeah.
Or even
Absolutely.
people with the C disease, would that be related to all those chemicals that are allowed, especially in US, where in many other countries in the world, there are some that are not. And what
Mhm.
is your experience when you decided to look at your health and the way you were eating?
Um, I guess that was actually part of my awakening myself is understanding that the things that are in our environment are having a great effect on our health and our way of being, right? So when I started going and looking into food, you know, there's a lot of talk out there about the effects of these different chemicals and things that get put on food for processing the food, whether be from the farm or within the factory that makes the food, things of that nature. Um, One of the biggest things that I have come to learn, and again, when you start talking about evidence and these kind of things, right? We can't necessarily say definitively that something is making us sick or something is making us sad or something that is making us happy or what like there's like it's hard to say in health exactly what it is that is causing or having an effect, right? Because there's so many things that go into that, right? But what I have started to learn as I started understanding food nutrition better is that perhaps because of the gardening or the gardening but the farming techniques and things like that that we use nowadays, that maybe the food is not as nutritious or we're not eating as nutritious as we once were. And I met a gentleman by the name of Morley Robbins who taught me an enormous amount of information, very, very powerful things about nutrition and specifically about minerals. Now, we all often talk about vitamins and minerals, vitamins and minerals. As it turns out, the vitamins are great, but it's the minerals in the food that might be um, not being uptaken by the plant itself. And if we eat the plant or the animal that eats the plant, and then if we eat the animal, then the nutrition that was not there or might not have been there um, is not there for us either. So when you do proper mineralization in the body, and there's some very key things, and it's not a big laundry list of things that you need to do. There's some very key things that you can do, everybody can do to help with their mineralization. Right. We kind of like a new term talking about mineralization. So when you have proper nutrients, the chemicals in your body start using those minerals to start having these chemical reactions in our body, and it produces energy inside of our cells, right? We use that energy for healing, we use it for work, we do those things. But what I've come to learn about the food is that supplementation is a good thing nowadays, especially if it's in the right amounts. It's not about just taking things. That's one of the biggest things I learned, I think, about food. And of course, this is everything in general, is everything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you do, you just do it in moderation instead of just going deep in one way and then deep into another way, and looking for a good result. A balanced approach is usually the best approach that we have seen when we're trying to help people in their health and their wellness and look at their overall health and what we can do to help change their environment. We all share, we're often against each other as people. Sometimes we have arguments and debates, and there's politics and history and religion. There's all these things to be separated from or you know disagreements, let's say, right, in those
Yeah.
types of areas. But one thing that we can't really argue too much about is we're all eating the same food, we're sharing the same air, we're drinking from the same water, right? And you know, people get sick. So
Yeah.
the question is what do you do to change your environment? You know, what do you do to change your environment? So, that's been a big journey for me because my wife and I, we put together a health center based on latest technologies. some of these technologies had been kind of suppressed for 20 years.
Mm.
And then they were finally released, and I happened to find out about one of them, and I invested in it. My wife and I invested in it. We had a center that we opened up, and we adopted the mineralization program I was telling you about from Morley, and we've seen people's lives, improve. It's fun watching, seeing them get better. So that has been that actually happened right about the same time I really started applying myself in law and things like that. So for the last 6 years or so, I've been very, very busy in those two aspects. And there's another law, right? What you put in is what you get out, right? So what we're putting in
Yes,
our bodies is what we're getting out of it. And um, those are things that we all have opportunity to improve upon. Quite honestly, from a national standpoint.
I love it that you learned, you applying yourself, and you're helping other people also take advantage of everything that you learn. Would you
Mhm.
like to share more information about your center?
Yeah, well, the center we shut down.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we just couldn't generate enough interest where we were. If we were further, down in Atlanta or somewhere like that in the middle of Atlanta, it might have been a different story. We
Mhm.
might have been very, very successful, but where we were was not necessarily conducive to a lot of foot traffic and things like that. But it's a smaller town. We thought the word would spread, but it spread. It just people didn't really go that route, and that's okay. It's okay. It's fine. But it didn't ultimately work out. But what we do, we still offer this in our home. We have what's called the energy enhancement system, and it is a very simple, very well put together technology. And what it does is it collides photons in the center of a room using computer monitors and different lights that correspond to your chakras. So as those lights collide in the center of the room, it produces what is known as scalar energy, and its scalar energy is a different waveform or energy form than electromagnetic waves, right? So when this room is filled with scalar energy, all the sources of energy that are not necessarily beneficial for us, those get negated, right? You're just sitting in a very peaceful, calm um, environment, right? So that allows your body to recharge and rest and relax and those kind of things when you're not, for example, the reason you don't stand next to a microwave is because the cells of your body will heat up and you'll get burned. But it's warming up the water. It spins the water, the cells of your water or cells of your body, and the water gets spun like I think it's a billion times a second with microwaves. So that creates heat,
Oh,
right? So that's not necessarily good sources of energy. And there's other, there's microwaves are used throughout, our as I understand it, used in various different ways. But when you can sit in this environment, none of those things really matter. So it gives your body a break. And then we did the mineralization. It's the application or the introduction of copper into your diet, along with magnesium, vitamin C, and vitamin A and vitamin D, but in the correct amounts. A lot of
mhm.
people do vitamin D too much, and they don't do enough vitamin A. You need to do 10 units of A for 1 unit of D. So there's very comprehensive study that's been done around this that we incorporated into our center. And then we had some water devices and air purification. So really it's about changing that environment. And that's what we were really trying to focus on. So we do it in our home. We have other members and friends that have done it, and they've seen great results. And, their environment is inside their house is improved. Their health is improved. It's really nice to see.
And are you living in Florida now?
Georgia.
Georgia?
Yeah, I live outside of Atlanta.
I see. I love the countryside. That's my dream to move back to the country. I
Mm-hmm.
was born in the countryside and now I'm in the city. I'm right in the heart of Los Angeles, but I wanted to go to a place where I can plant beans. I
Yeah,
want to eat my own beans.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, we live, we're still considered rural, even though we're part of Metro Atlanta. but there's lots of farms and pastures and things around here that are just beautiful. You don't have to go very far to be out in the countryside. So it's nice. We live in a really nice spot.
So I think it's more like have the word going out, because every day there is more and more people looking for solutions like that.
On the health side?
Yes, on the health
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
way you and Marlu are doing really works.
Mhm.
And
It
let
does.
me explain why it works. Because everything there is are energy. There is only energy.
Mhm.
The reason why we see things is because this is energy, is condensed energy, is vibrates low in a way that we can see. Everything is energy. The problem is when you are not eating good, when you are eating chemicals in your food, all the chemicals vibrates very, very low. For your body to thrive, really thrive, everything that you put in your body would be better to have a vibration of 200 and up. Closer to 500, that's love, the better. Why? Because we are made the image in the image of God, and God
Mhm.
is love, that's 500. You're
Mhm.
not gonna find God in shame, that's 20, the vibrational frequency, or in guilt, that's 30. You're gonna find God in love. When you start moving up the scale of 200 as courage, you are walking towards God. You're gonna meet God in love. Anyway, returning here to the conversation, the vibrational frequency of any chemicals that's harmful to their body is low, is under 100, that's fear. They usually vibrate in close to destruction, because anything below 200 is destruction,
Mhm.
destruction of life, organic
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
So we are moving through a place in the galaxy where the complete solar system will be immersed in a photon belt. I like that you guys are already using photon light. The photon belt, and this photon belt has a vibrational frequency of 200 and up. What is this photon belt? Let's talk a little bit about astrology.
Mhm.
You know that our Earth, this is a pyramid, but let's pretend this is a circle, is a sphere. And let me get a smaller one. This is our moon, just pretend. The moon goes around the planet, takes around 28 days. That's the first cycle that we are aware of. And then now this one is our Earth, and this one is the sun. So our Earth goes around the sun and takes a little bit more than 365 days a year. Now, pretend that this one is the sun. Who the sun rotates orbit around? The central sun of the Pleiades. It's called Alcyone. Is a
Mhm.
white star that you can see from Earth at night. There is like a group of 70 stars. They look like a kite. And one of those stars is Alcyone.
Mhm.
And all over the scripture, the sacred scriptures they talk about the seven sisters, seven stars.
Mhm.
The reason why they call seven is because they are looking at night. And at night, of course, they don't see the sun. But actually, our sun is the eighth star of the Pleiades. And our
Oh, wow.
sun is the furthest star that rotates around Alcyone. And
Didn't know
again, the
that.
reason why they only talk about seven is because who wrote that was observing from Earth. So they'll see the other seven only at night, so they will not associate with our sun.
Mm.
That means we are also planets from our solar system. Anyway, there is three other stars that you can see at night. They are the first ones to appear. They go like that. In Brazil, we call the three Marys. But
Mm.
actually, they are the three Sirius stars.
They're the what?
And Sirius,
Serious? Mm, yeah.
Sirius. I probably not pronouncing
Oh no,
correctly.
I
That's my
understood. I just
Brazilian pronunciation.
yeah, yeah.
So what happened is that oh, okay, I forgot to tell. Our sun takes 26,000 years. Of course, it's not exactly precise, 26,000, a little more, to make a complete loop around Alcyone. 26,000 years. Save this number. I'm going to return to that number. Now, here we have Alcyone and the three stars of the series. They're kind of pulled together. None goes around each other, but they're kind of put together. It's like they are sisters.
Mm.
And they rotate around the central sun of the galaxy together, side
Mm.
by side. And of course, Alcyone with all the other stars and the planets for each stars. We all move around the central sun of the galaxy. And
Mm.
this take 243,000, no, 245 million light years. I have no idea exactly what that number means or how to count it, but it's take a long time.
Long time.
So our central sun, many of you already saw the picture of our Milky Way galaxy. It has like a bulb, like a sphere of light in the center. That's the central sun.
Hmm.
And it's like arms around the solar system.
Hmm.
So there is a photon belt of light that comes from the central sun, past the Sirius stars, and then give a vertical loop around Alcyone, and then fades away. So all the astros, including our sun that rotates around Alcyone, will cross this belt twice because everything in the universe rotates horizontally, and it's always a small one, like the moon, is always pulled by another that's bigger, all the way to the motherverse. So everybody, all the stars from the Pleiades will cross this belt twice. With the speed that our sun and our planet rotates, it takes for Earth 2,000 years to completely cross the belt. And we do
Hmm.
that two times. Two times. So
Hmm.
that's mean in a circle of 26,000 years,
Hmm.
we have 4 years, 4,000 years that actually we are inside this photon belt. And of course, many people already wrote about, even the Bible has information about that's the golden age. The 2000 of the golden age, 2000 of peace, 2000 years of peace. So, and guess what? We are about to complete 26,000 years.
Hmm.
Anyone heard about the Mayan calendar?
Hmm. Yep, I have.
That they tried to scare us, saying that actually they were predicting the end of the world.
Hmm.
That's supposed to had happened in 2012 and didn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, they were
Didn't
saying
happen,
that was
right?
going to
In
be it. Everything was going to
2026.
turn off.
So actually, what they were counting was how many years the sun would take it to complete the loop around Alcyone. That's what the Maya calendar is for.
2012
So what
years.
do they do? Also, the Hindu, the Indians, they create sectors. They divide those 26,000 years in periods.
Mhm.
For example, the periods that are close to the light, they have more light. There is a period, I think it's called Kala Yuga, that's the one that's furthest from the light.
Mhm.
So that's where Earth is completely immersed in darkness.
Mhm.
That was like 6,000 years ago. So the last time that Earth crossed the belt, it was about almost 13,000 years ago.
Mhm.
And guess what happened?
What?
The humans that time was not vibrating in love. Most of them. And there was some particular that was being influenced by ETs that didn't really had the best interest of humanity of heart. So they were misled and they were doing things that was going against the universal law. And most importantly, they were moving
Excuse
towards
me.
one single rule. Okay, when Source decided, you guys go to Earth, go play over there. That'll be fun. You're gonna forget you are one with me.
Mhm.
So, and you have a lots of fun remembering. I'll give you free will. It's like give a knife to a child, but he also says, but you're not going alone. You're always connected to your higher self. That's the one that was always telling you what to do, your intuition. And there is so many spiritual team like trying to show you the right way. So if we come, but you don't come alone, we are supported. You can go and then you can play, you can do whatever you want with your free will. Even kill yourself or others. Well, there is consequences, but it's still allowed. The only thing you are not allowed to do is to destroy the planet physically.
Mhm.
You're not allowed to do that. But the time of Atlantis, they were doing things that was breaking the energetic grid of the planet. It's in
Mhm.
one of Dolores Cannon's book, and I got confirmation from many other sources.
Mhm.
That's why they had to stop. And
Mhm.
they cannot destroy the experiment, the human experiment. Our DNA is very precious.
Mhm.
We hold the God genes, and they were trying to manipulate and mixing us with animals,
Mhm.
and some was even introducing bacteria. They are trying to destroy humanity, literally. They really had to stop. That's why Atlantis had to sink. Of course, there was some survivors and so on. But now you are asking, okay, how if Earth is three-dimensional now? How Earth crossed the belt the other times? Because Earths exist a long time ago. How it's crossed the other times? It's because Earth was created in a higher dimensions. Before the fall of Atlantis, Earth was a five-dimensional planet. After the fall of Atlantis, a matrix of a three-dimensional matrix was created. And the goal of the planet is to go back to the fifth dimension. So that's why we are here. And why is important to cleanse your body? That's the point that I wanted to tell you.
Mhm.
Why is important to cleanse your body? Because you should be already receiving the lights from the central sun, because the light is, we're already inside the light. We're not just completely fully inside the light. That's why we still can entertain vibrations that are under love,
Hmm.
like a fear and so on, because we're not completely inside. But when we receive the light, everything that's not of the light try to be pushed out of our body.
Hmm.
That's why there's so many people struggling with traumas, because the traumas are coming to the surface. Deal with, let it go of your body.
Hmm.
So all those chemicals that you put in your body, it's make harder for that light to move through your body.
That's right.
And you, me, and many people that are watching, actually everybody that is watching, are probably star seeds. And
Mhm.
the goal of the star seeds, we come with a genetic blueprint that are able to attract that light like antenna, process through our body, anchor into the planet, and then just irradiate that light to other people, helping them push away from them all the negativity that they see hold in their body, but in a way that they can handle. But we are the antennas. So
Mhm.
it's very important that we cleanse our body,
Absolutely.
not
Hmm.
only the physical body, but the mental body, also the emotional body. And there is so many techniques out there. And before, when you'd think about spirituality, you would think, okay, I'm very spiritual. I cannot get married. I can't have sex. I cannot eat this and that. And it's a completely separated world, and that's it. But it's not. You don't need to become a monkey to be spiritual.
Right. Right.
And actually, the goal is to be spiritual while you live in the world on the best way as possible.
Hmm.
Because that's not why we came here for. For some people, just to seclude themselves and just be spiritual, and other just be focused in the material and so on.
Hmm.
So what your job is very, very important, and that's why I invited you to come, because it's very important to really see everything as of God,
Hmm.
and always have a godly way to move through all aspects of our life.
Absolutely. Well said. Yep. Absolutely. That, you have to, there comes a time where you just have to, you, you, you have to submit, you know, to that. Not that it doesn't mean you have to give up anything. It's just that you have to learn to submit to the way things are. And when you can learn to submit to the way things are, you can move through these things in a lot better, a more peaceful way. How about that? You can move through it a more peaceful way. And things that I've done within law has been, similar to those things, right? Just understanding that everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's in their own place, wherever that journey is, whether they're purely in the material or they're functioning outside of that, right? And you know, you you have to meet people right where they're at. Even in a courtroom,
Yeah.
even a judge, even a lawyer, right? So accepting things for the way they are and walking through with that understanding is what I mean by submitting to it. Instead of
Yes.
just fighting or warring. I call it warring. If you war with these things, well, then you're going to get something in return, right? Something's going to come back because so I had watched a video. I don't remember the gentleman's name. I see go through a lot of. I scroll through things. I don't always just stop and study and read. I do a lot of studying already. So when I'm not studying, I'm scrolling, either for entertainment or just a little bit more information. But this fella said whenever you interact with anybody, understand first that the way that you interact with them is going to produce not just an outcome for you, but it's going to cause them, and you talked about karma
Yes.
when we first got on. What are they working on? What are they dealing with? What lessons are they supposed to be getting? And you have an opportunity to shape that if you step in through this in a healthy way. Because again, you can watch the media and you can get caught up in a lot of these things on television, things on social media, you name it, right? There's no shortage of information. I like to say right now we're in a stage, and when you talked about going around the central sun and the cycle and time repeats, history repeats, there's all this things going on. But when you can think of things that way and interact and walk through that with that understanding, your whole life you can chart a whole new path for your own personal karma as well.
Yes.
And you start creating the world that you really want to be in. It's slow, it's not always quick, but as you start going down this path, the more of us that come together like we're doing here and everybody else who watches the more we start having a common understanding of what it really means to be civil. Let's just anchor all of that here. When you understand what it means to be civil, then again, you have an opportunity to improve, to build, versus everything getting taken down. Because, as I'm saying, when you watch the social media and the television, it looks like the end of the world's coming. And I tell my wife, I was like, yeah, there's something in it for everybody right now. We have UFOs, we have earthquakes, we got tsunamis, we have things in politics and entertainment. I mean, it's just nuts right now. There's just so many things going on. But again, if you believe in that cycle, then it's just a matter of history repeating itself, and it's a cleansing and it's a rebirth, and we get a chance to start something new. So,
Thank you, Gail.
mm, mm,
And for you that is watching, you're probably wondering, I was expecting more of this conversation. You didn't got to the juicy things. Calm down. It's just an introduction. This one's just an introduction. Next time that Gail come back, we're gonna talk about how you can claim your sovereignty
mhm.
in places that you think it was taken from you. So we
Yes.
go a little bit deeper. Today was more an introduction, and we are in the hour mark. So, Gail, would you have some final words to the people that are watching?
Yeah, if for anybody who's interested in learning more about law and what it means. When we talked in the beginning, I was wanting to know um, what your members were like, what you typically talk about, how you move, what's your theme of your show. So when you told me what it was and I saw the title, that I was like, that that's really perfect. So when you start talking about being sovereign and being divinely sovereign, which we all are already, this is what I want everybody to really know. You're already that. The question becomes, well, how do I adopt it? How do I walk with it? How do I use it? How do I step through life? And of course, the more you understand what sovereignty is, what it means to be autonomous and responsible in society, when you can understand why law is in place in the first place, right? Understanding your rights. If your viewers want some really good information between now and the next time, because when we talk the next time, it might be a little bit easier for them to start understanding the concept. Because if you
Yes,
don't think of yourself as being in law, like we are a nation of laws in the United States. Okay, not a nation of men per se, right? It's a nation of laws. We are people within states and communities and towns and tribes and families, and that's where everything begins. So Perhaps they could go to, I think I gave you the website, We the People Too, I
Yes.
think it was, if
Yes,
that's there.
actually, I'm gonna put in the description.
Perfect, perfect. This is an associate of mine. He's a brilliant man in law. He's founding father type level. So if you really want to understand how the United States was formed and what the Constitution is really for and how it's to be used and what law simply means, I think you can go to that website or they could go to the website and they can look under, I don't know if it's rule of law, or it's under the education section. But what they're going to look for, matter of fact, we have a few more minutes? I could do a screen share, perhaps.
Oh, yes, you can share the screen.
It might be easier
Let
if I
me
show versus tell, because let's see. Yeah, there it is.
see. I'll make you a host so you can easily share.
Okay, perfect.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, just to answer your question, is you're already sovereign. You just need to learn, or if you want to learn how and what that really means, then of course, um, this would be a good source of information. So can you see that? Does that show up?
yes.
Yeah, it's we the people too.us. And if you go under the education and rule of law, Blue Series beginner, there's intermediate and advanced things. But if you start here on this page, it starts with maxims, and maxims are the most important thing to know when you start talking about law or the application of law. And at maxims of law, what form constitutions. So if a country has a constitution, it was rooted in the maxims of law. And this is a good place to begin, Module 1, but law before government. And if there was, what was the law before government? And if there was law before government, then that must necessarily mean we're sovereign. Yeah. I mean, we were born that way. So what happens after you're born and you start entering into adulthood and civil society, what happens or what goes on with laws after that? Because it seems like sometimes things don't always work in our favors, right? So the great place to start. And you can see down here at the bottom, there's the slides. There's an outline. You can choose there. And this is a fantastic site. It's free, doesn't cost anything. And the information here is some of the best anywhere to be found on the internet, to be honest. So, yeah,
Thank you
just
so
know that
much.
you're sovereign. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Gail.
You're welcome.
And I have a homework for you that's watching. Go to this website, search it out, read what's catch your eyes, and write questions. Come back to this video and write questions on the comments. I will gather those questions and I'll talk to Gail and see what answers we can give it to you next time. Gail, that was a pleasure to talk to you. There is so many things that we need to unfold, and we're gonna do that maybe in more 2 episodes or even more. We're gonna
Okay.
see. And thank you for your work. Thank you for accepting coming to the awakening path.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I look forward to it.
And thank you very much for you that is watching. And please share, comment, leave your like, and subscribe if you're not yet. Much love and light to you, and see you next time.